I think it's time that we start the conversation and silence the shame.
Silence the shame.
Silence the shame. Silence is the difference between treatment or pain, life or death.
Silence the shame.
Speak up now and silence the shame.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Shanti Das, aka Auntie Shanti. I am the CEO and founder of Silence the Shame and your hostess for the Silence the Shame podcast. We're coming to you live with this podcast for our Black Children's Mental Health Awareness Day COPE Clinic. Our live audience are students from Atlanta Public Schools, whoop whoop. Yes, and Fulton County Schools. So shout out to all the students here in attendance today. So on this episode, we are joined by two incredible youth, Savannah Elahee. Welcome, Savannah. And Marquis here. What's up, Marquis?
Yes, ma'am. What's going on, Auntie Shanti?
Thank you for being here today. We appreciate you. And our long-term partner and behavioral health clinician, Dr. Vaughn Gay. What's up, Dr. Gay?
Back again. How you doing, Shanti?
So I'm excited about this episode. This episode, y'all, is really certified and centered around self-love because we will discuss what it means to define self-love languages, right? And how it is important to start loving yourself early on to support lifelong wellness. So without further ado, let's get this thing going. So y'all ready? Savannah, Marquis, Dr. Vaughn, let's do this.
Let's do it.
All right, so the first question, well, I'll start with a statement. Self-love refers to valuing, respecting, and caring for oneself. It also involves accepting and appreciating your strengths and weaknesses, setting healthy boundaries, and prioritizing your physical, emotional, and mental well-being. So in a few words, and I'll start with you, Savannah, what does self-love mean to you?
To me, self-love means the ability to know yourself and give yourself that same affection and intimacy that you would give anyone else. But obviously it starts with you because you can't really properly love people if you're not giving that same love to yourself.
Yes, I love that. Thank you. Marquis, what does self-love mean to you?
I would say self-love to me just means like validating myself, right? Being my own biggest cheerleader, my own biggest fan, and not searching outside of myself, right, for that validation in others. So, really just being my own biggest cheerleader.
Yes, I love that. I used to look for my friends for validation. And even now, I think through social media, sometimes we be looking at other people's pages, right?
Right.
And looking at what they're doing and comparing it to ourselves. And then sometimes we get down on ourselves. But no, you got to wake up every morning and put that joy into the atmosphere, right? And love on yourself. So I love that. All great answers. Dr. Vaughn, what do you think are some common misconceptions about self-love?
So, we think that self-love is pampering ourselves, right? As adults, we get this wrong a lot of times. We may think that a spa day or going on a vacation, is self-love. Honestly, self-love is thinking about the things that you would and would not do to allow yourself to be impacted for yourself to be impacted negatively, So thinking about the relationships that you have, the friendships that you have, thinking about the environments that you put yourself in. If you really loved yourself, you have to start asking yourself, hey, is this good for me? And if it is, okay, then it's a really good decision. But if I genuinely love myself, would I put myself in a negative situation, a negative friendship, or a negative relationship? So for you all as teenagers, I think it's very important for you all to really understand the people and the places that you associate yourself with and ask yourself, if I love myself, would I be doing these things?
Yes, that's great information. And so, Marquis, why is self-love important?
For me, I think self-love is important because how you love yourself, right? That's how you teach other people to love you. Like, I think by loving yourself, like your flaws and all, just everything about yourself, it allows you to build, a real foundation of just self-value and self-respect, self-worth that really allows you to just like tap into the genius, right? All of the gifts that lie within yourself. So I think that's why self-love is really
love that.
important.
I'm going to take it a step further too, especially as a young Black man, right? With so much that we deal with in society, in schools, in our communities, that self-love, right, is that much more important.
Exactly.
Talk a little bit about that.
I know for me, like I was mentioning earlier, right, seeking validation in other people, right? It was just me kind of learning to accept myself, like learning to love myself, learning that, everybody won't be supporting me. Everybody might not back my vision.
That's right.
But, like for me, with starting my clothing brand, writing my books, just never putting a limit on myself, right? Like by me loving myself, it allowed me to have a different type of confidence in everything I was doing.
Yes, because over 400 years ago, right, before we were brought to this country, our ancestors, we were kings and queens.
Right.
So we should wake up every morning knowing that we are kings and queens and that we love ourselves first, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So now that we've talked about, right, why self-love is important, you all also might have learned that love languages are different ways in which people express and experience love. And there are 5 main love languages, right? Affirmation. Say affirmation.
Affirmations.
Acts of service.
Acts of service.
Receiving gifts.
Receiving gifts.
Quality time.
Quality time.
And lastly, physical touch.
Physical touch.
Each person has a primary love language that they prefer to receive love in, rather. When it comes to ourselves, we can define our self-love languages as how we express and receive love towards ourselves. They can include self-care, positive talk, setting boundaries, practicing self-compassion, and engaging in activities that bring joy and fulfillment. What are some practical ways to practice self-love languages in your daily life? And I'll start with you, Savannah.
The first thing is knowing your love language. So, if you don't know it, there are quizzes online you can find out. Or really, sometimes you do just know because it's like, okay, I don't like people touching me. Or, yeah, I really love spending time with people that I care about. So finding that out and then doing things that connect to that. So physical touch, it might be give somebody a hug. Or a lot of the times, if it's like gifts, first of all, it's you like to receive gifts, but also give gifts to others.
Yes.
So when you're doing things that include your love language, it also includes how you give out love. So I think really just doing things that reflect that.
Love that. Yeah. Yes. Marquis.
100%. I would say positive affirmations, right? For
Okay.
me, that's one thing I practice daily. One thing I know is so important for me every day, just like speaking life into myself, right? I know sometimes you have to be that person who speaks life into you. So it's like every day waking up, reminding yourself that you got it, right? That you're capable, right? That you're enough, that you're loved, right? That you're worthy of achieving any goal, any dream, right? Anything that you're pursuing. So it's like sometimes just take 30 seconds out your day, right? Throughout your day, make sure you just look in the mirror, right? Just kind of giving yourself that life, right? And speaking life into yourself. So on 3, I just need everybody to say, I love myself. All right, 1, 2, 3. I love myself.
Yes.
Just like that, yeah.
Love that. Thank you. Dr. Gay, I want to hear, because it's important that, clinicians and therapists, y'all pouring into everybody else. How do you engage in self-love?
I think that everyone is capable of being able to have multiple love languages, right? So for myself, quality time, being able to have a little bit of downtime to myself, be able to go into the gym, spending time with my family, going for walks, things like that, right? As I've gotten a little older, some of those slower activities kind of really help me out in my personal life. Positive self-talk and self-affirmations are very important as well. Being able to have belief in yourself. When things aren't looking that well in life, can you really kind of reset your mindset? Okay, and can you start to look at things in a positive way? Or are you a type of person that has negative self-talk? Are you always downing yourself? Or are you always telling yourself that you won't be able to do something simply because it looks a little challenging or it's difficult, or because someone that you may know may not have been able to do that? So affirmations, positive self-talk, and also quality time, 3 very important affirmations for me.
I love that because we can talk ourselves out of our blessings sometimes, right?
Right.
And we go down that downward spiral. Like for me, growing up, my dad died by suicide when I was 7 months old, and it was tough growing up. And I think my mom and uncles tried to overcompensate for us by buying us so many gifts. And so we grew up thinking that, receiving gifts, was the ultimate love language. But also my mother taught me to help others. And so I walked away from a huge career and salary, and I love to be of service to others. That's my love language, being able to pour into other people and give back. And I realized when you pour into others, it is because you are so comfortable in yourself, right? And you find that joy and that spirit within that you want to be able to spread that love. And then the other thing I do is I like to travel. So that's my love language for wellness, is getting out there and getting on an airplane and doing something. So just to add Auntie Shanti's 2 little cents about self-love. All right, now, so I have another question for you, Savannah. For people who may struggle with this kind of love, right, how can they overcome the negative self-talk and learn to love themselves more?
This one for me, I know that I've dealt with a lot and have gone on a little journey with this, but get alone with yourself, because most of the self-talk comes from outside voices, because nobody is born and grows up just thinking like, man, I hate this about myself, unless you've really heard it first. So when you get alone with yourself and really quiet those voices, you're like, no, this is actually a really beautiful part of who I am. And kind of building the strength and the courage to be able to say that, first of all, this is me. I'm going to be the only person that's going to be with myself from now until I die. So I might as well learn to love this part about myself. And also realize that anyone who is telling you anything different sees something in you that they don't see in themselves. So honestly, just realizing that everyone has their own insecurities and taking the liberty to deal with yours and to treat yourself with that love.
I love that. Y'all give it up for that. That was really good. That's powerful. Finding time, right, alone with yourself, getting comfortable with loving yourself, right, and then letting people know that, you know, it's okay to be alone sometimes and to have those quiet moments and those still moments. That's so important.
Right.
Dr. Vaughn, can self-love be learned or is it innate? Meaning, are we born with it or is it, you know, a learned behavior?
So I think it's a little half and half. I think we all have the ability to be able to love ourselves, but I think just like with any skill, it needs to be trained. You know, self-love is not something that we just all inherently know how to do for ourselves, and it grows and it changes. Your needs evolve over time as you grow. So it is a skill that everyone must learn. It is very important for you all to have that. And the best way is to be able to look at examples from others that are a little bit older, that are in that space in a similar walk as you, and see how they do it for themselves. And you may be able to kind of take a few examples of that and implement it into your own life.
Love that. All right, so I want to go back to our teen experts today. Savannah, how can self-love benefit our relationships with others, particularly, you know, your parents or your best friends or even your teammates, right, or your classmates? How can self-love benefit those relationships?
So I'm going to start this with an example. Raise your hand if your friend has ever come to you about advice that you knew nothing about. Yeah, but I mean, most of us, I feel like I would give good advice regardless. But like, even if I knew nothing about it, I would still have my 2 cents. So I say that to say that a lot of the times we have no idea how to help people in certain situations because we haven't been in those situations ourselves. So, or we have, and it's like, oh man, I feel really bad about myself today. Or I feel like I look very fat in this shirt. And you're like, oh, no, you don't. And then I feel like I look bad in this shirt, or I feel like I look like this. So a lot of the times when we have those relationships with people and we both feel bad about ourselves, the way that we cope and the way that we comfort each other is to say, like, no, that's me. Or like, and having the tools to say, no, that's neither of us. We both look good today. Like, I love your hair today. I think my hair looks good too.
For sure. I would say for me, you can't be everything for everybody, right? Like, I was always that friend, like you were saying, who, you know, kind of wanted to help everybody. Yeah. You know, people would come to me. I'm the positive friend. I'm the motivational friend. Marquis, what should I do? What should I do? And it can get very draining, right? And, you know, like, one thing that I learned is, like, you can't pour from an empty cup. Like, you can't continue pouring into others if you're not pouring into yourself.
Wait, do y'all know what that means? Y'all heard that expression before? Raise your hand if you heard that expression, pouring from an empty cup. Okay. For those that don't know, explain that to them, Marquis.
So what pouring from an empty cup means, you know, like, when you continue to, you know, give advice and you're giving advice, or, you know, you're continuing to help other people and you're not taking care of yourself, right? You're not focusing on your own mental health. You're not focusing on the love that you're actually providing for yourself, not even tending, you know, to the things that you may be going through in your life. It starts to get really draining, right? And, like, that's what I mean. You can't pour from an empty cup. So for me, you know, it's just always remembering, you know, to fill your own cup up, right? To make sure that you're taking care of yourself, focusing on your own mental health, and then you can help others, right? Then you can tend to other people's needs. So you can't be everything for everybody. Just make sure you're taking care of you, because when you set those healthy boundaries, right, in your relationships, not only does it help yourself, but it helps the other person too. Like, have y'all ever been going through a lot and you're not telling anybody and then you snap on somebody? I know I have.
We done all snapped before.
Right? Like, we snap, right?
Yep.
And it's just because, we have all this built up energy that we're not taking care of. But when you take care of you, you can better help other people around you.
So dope. And I just want to give you a shout out. Like, our team, we met you a couple weeks ago at an event we did at the Rice Center here in Atlanta. You're an entrepreneur.
Yes,
you're about to walk and graduate high school. And this whole topic, right, is the basis of what you started your brand around.
Yeah.
Tell them about your brand, your apparel, and everything that we're doing, because I just think it's so important in how you're pouring back into the community around self-love.
Yes, ma'am. So last year, at the end of my junior year of high school, I actually started my clothing brand. It's called Love Yourself. And my brand is all about
Y'all heard that?
Yourself.
He started his clothing brand in high school.
Yeah.
Y'all can clap for that.
And like I was saying, it's all about just loving yourself, right? Really focusing on your mental health and, staying true to who you are. And I feel like, for me, I really wanted to start a clothing brand because clothing is one way we say so many things without saying a single word, right? Like, if I walk in with a Love Yourself hoodie, he might love himself, right? Or you might read and it'd be like, man, am I loving myself, right? So it's like, for me, I wanted to start a clothing brand just to further that message even more and to encourage people with what they're wearing, right? To really love themselves and to stay true to who they are. So that's my clothing brand, and that's really why I started it.
I love that. Thank
definitely.
you. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Dr. Vaughn, can you talk about how self-love benefits relationships?
Can you really love someone else if you don't love yourself? It's as simple as that, right? Kind of going back to what Marquis was saying, pouring into others requires a lot of you. Right? Sometimes you don't have enough within you to be able to pour into others, right? So the more that you do love yourself, the more that you learn yourself, the more that you're aware of yourself, the more you're able to teach others how to love you, the healthier your relationship will be, and a lot easier it'll be for you to be able to love someone else as well.
Absolutely. And what are some potential challenges that we may face when trying to cultivate self-love?
So I think specifically for the teens here, I work at Hugh Spalding Hospital, and I have a psychology clinic. I work with teenagers every Monday and Tuesday. I see about 10 teens on Monday, about 15 on Tuesday. And we sit and we talk and we do therapy, all right? And one of the main things we talk about is self-love. And one of the biggest impediments is teenagers, in their own world, they had a lot of things figured out, but that's within that world, but it doesn't necessarily mean in the global world, right? In the global, just the way that we have to do things. So the biggest thing is just being able to listen. Being willing to listen to others that may have experience in a situation that you've gone through, right? Even if you think that no one has ever been in that space before, okay? Having the ability to listen to others, kind of breaking down our own egos and our pride, and just really being willing to receive, advice and wisdom from other people.
Great advice. And earlier when the students first got here, I was going around the room asking them what they did for self-care, because self-care directly relates with how you love yourself. And so I want to ask you all, I'll start back with you, Savannah, what role does self-care play in self-love, and what do you do for self-care?
I think that self-care plays a huge role in self-love. A lot of the times we don't realize that how we pamper ourselves, especially at this age, people, some of y'all in this room are starting puberty and stuff and don't really know. But I think that how you take care of yourself is first of all, it's therapeutic. And we all need a little therapy sometimes. So for me, it could look like reading a book. It could be more physical, like reading a book, or it could be, I write poetry, so it could be writing.
Oh, nice.
Thank you. It could be like writing. A lot of the times writing to myself. It could be a spa day or face mask, or it could be running, going to the gym. It could be, first of all, it ranges anywhere from A to Z with me, but honestly, whatever I need in that moment, just assessing that and saying, okay, this is what I'm going to do for myself today. I'm going to make time for this.
I love that. Sometimes you just got to tell people, nope, I can't do it today. I'm pouring back into me.
Right.
Young brother Marquis.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you do for self-care, and how does that play into self-love?
So for me, I love working out. Right, so
I could tell because your daddy looked like your brother, so the whole family must work out.
I be trying to get him out there with me. But for me, like I used to play basketball. I still play now, but like more just for fun. Where are like my hoopers in here? I got anybody to hoop? Okay, I got you. Basketball, that used to be my thing, right? So like, I would go outside, just getting up jump shots, working on my handles, right? Just having fun with the game. And now it's just continuing to work out because it's just something about, when you're exercising, when you're taking care of yourself, when you're taking care of your health, you just feel good about yourself.
Yes.
Right? Like you start to look in the mirror, you like, dang, I see you. Right? Like I see the progress, right? And
yes.
I think like that's just one way, I take care of myself and, like that's one way I express that self-love, just working out.
I love that.
Right.
For me, like I didn't used to like to cook, and sometimes I'll go eat a hamburger or wings, and I feel so full, and it just makes me feel weighted down, and it starts getting heavy on me. But when I cook a real healthy meal, I feel light.
Yeah.
I feel good. I get outside. I take a walk, and then for me as an auntie, and I'm sure the volunteers can relate. Oh, just getting in bed, going to sleep feels so good.
Right.
I'm like, yes, I'm loving me because I'm going to bed early. It just feels so. Anybody like to sleep?
Come on.
Listen, ain't nothing like being gone all day and getting in that bed resting. That is an act of self-love. I love it. What do you do, Dr. Vaughn, for self-love?
So right along
and
those
self-care,
lines, right along those lines, getting some good physical activity, always important for anyone of any age. And then actually allowing your body to rest, right? The society we live in, everything is just hyper activity, right? You got so much going on social media, so many things kind of swirling around us. Letting your brain and letting your body rest. Teenagers tend to sleep a lot. Parents, let them get their rest. Their bodies are growing and developing. Their minds are as well. So allow them to get their rest. Not too much, but let them get their rest because there will be a certain point in time to where they may not be able to have periods of rest like that again. So physical activity, letting the mind and the body rest, and get right back in the game.
Yes, for the rest. Okay, we're almost at our time. This has been such an amazing and enlightening, right, discussion and live podcast. I'm so honored to be your host for today. I want to go around and ask you all for your final words and thoughts of advice for teens navigating stressful life circumstances, balancing personal and school life, and anyone that might be struggling with their overall mental well-being. So any final words of advice, Savannah, and encouragement?
If there was one thing that I would say, it's give yourself grace. Because a lot of the times we're just pushing ourselves so hard, and when you get to a certain age or a certain point and you're burnt out, it's like, what can you do? What can you do for yourself? What can you do for other people? So give yourself that grace and give yourself space and allow yourself to make mistakes, because we're all going through life for the first time. This is what we
ain't nobody perfect.
do. Yeah. Right. So give yourself that grace and tell yourself that it's going to be okay. Motivate yourself when nobody else will.
Anybody ever feel burnt out sometimes with school, activities, home life? It gets to be a lot. So y'all heard what Savannah said. She said, give yourself some grace, right? You got to be kind to yourselves. You have to love on yourself. You have to take time. You have to eat right. You have to get out and exercise and do things that you love. That is so important. Such great words of wisdom. Thank you, Savannah.
Yes, ma'am.
Marquis, what would you say?
I would say if I can leave you with like anything from the day, it's just really stay true to yourself. Like any dream that you have, any goal that you have, anything that you're aspiring to accomplish in this life, just don't let anybody else's judgment or anybody else's words get you off your path. Like, you're going to have a lot of people who doubt you at times, right? They may be closer to you. They may be random people on social media. But, you just stand true to yourself. You continue loving yourself. And every day, like I mentioned earlier, speak life into yourself. Like, sometimes you have to be that person for you. Be your own biggest fan, your own biggest cheerleader. And I promise you, at the end of the day, you go win as long as you keep believing in you.
Yes. Great advice.
I would just
Dr.
say,
Vaughn.
Have a healthy outlet. Whether that's a sport, whether that is a job, whether it is, volunteering or being connected with an organization. If it's a teacher, a coach, you got to be able to have an outlet. all right? Everything in life is not gonna go perfect. You all are learning a lot about life for the first time. A lot of your experiences are first experiences, okay? You gotta be able to have someone that can give you some wisdom, and you have to be able to have some type of physical activity or something that's gonna give you an outlet, all right? So make sure that you identify that in your life, because if not, then you will be an adult that ends up developing unhealthy coping mechanisms, and that's not a place that you wanna be.
And the only thing I'll say is just if you're afraid to ask for help, just talk to friends and family, talk to somebody. And also, if you come from a praying family, pray and ask God to give you that strength that you need to ask somebody if you need some help, if you might be struggling. There's a lot of great resources out there. That's why Silence the Shame is here, and so many of our other vendors. This has been an amazing, amazing conversation. Thank you to our guests for your honesty, transparency, and vulnerability, sharing your experiences and your ideas. We want to thank the partners, Fulton County Government, Commissioner Natalie, our funders, the City of Atlanta, the Year of the Youth, and Urban League of Greater Atlanta to allow us to produce this episode. This podcast episode was produced by my young homie and friend, Spells Productions, and his group. And so please, we ask you to share this episode with your family, friends, community abroad so we can spread the word of wisdom shared today from these young leaders so they may inspire change for all. Continue to support Silence the Shame by liking, subscribing, and leaving those 5-star reviews for our podcast. And we are always accepting donations so we can continue to do this important work. You can text to give by texting the word silence to 707070. We thank you for tuning in. Remember to free your feels, take time, save a life, and silence the shame. Let's give it up.
Go.
3, 2, 1.
I think it's time that we start the conversation and silence the shame.
Silence the shame.
Silence the shame. Silence is the difference between treatment or pain, life or death.
Silence the shame.
Speak up now and silence
Silence.
the shame.